Greetings and welcome to Lecture 4.6, Binomial Squares and Other Special Products. In previous lectures, we've chatted about polynomials multiplied by polynomials and our FOIL method. And we can use that here for our binomial squares. So let's take an example. Find the square of 3x minus 2. And the square of 3x minus 2 is going to be 3x minus 2. That quantity times the quantity 3x minus 2. We can use our FOIL method, multiplying first the 3x in the first quantity times the 3x in the second quantity. Now multiply the 3x from the first quantity times the negative 2x in the second quantity. The negative 2x from the first multiplied by the 3x from the second. And lastly, negative 2 from the first times negative 2 from the second. That'll give us 9x squared plus negative 6x plus negative 6x plus 4. All coming down to 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. Just want to run through a couple of examples with this. A plus b, that quantity squared, as well as a minus b quantity squared. So for a plus b, again, that's going to be a plus b times the quantity a plus b. We can use our FOIL method. And then we reorder, because multiplication we can do our order in any order. So this a times b and b times a, I'm just going to write it as ab times ab, or ab plus ab. And then we get down to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Now let's take a look at a minus b quantity squared. Again, using our FOIL method, it's going to be a times a times negative b times a, and negative b times negative b. Again, for the middle section, negative b times a is the same thing as a times negative b, so I'm just going to rewrite it as a squared minus ab plus b. So our final result is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Now, if you haven't noticed, there is a pattern going on. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. That's when there's a plus sign in the middle. Everything is addition. We square the first term, we square the last term, and then we double the terms multiplied together. Let's look at when it's a minus in the middle. It's still a squared, it's still positive b squared, but now it's a minus sign in the middle. And we have a rule that we can play with to make these multiplications go a lot faster. So the square of a binomial is the sum of the square of the first term twice the product of the original terms and the square of the second term. So here's a generic equation. X plus y, the quantity squared. So quickly we can square the first term, that's x squared, plus twice the product of the terms. So the product of the terms is xy, x times y. But it's twice that, so we're going to say 2 times that. So 2xy plus the square of the second term. Now the only time that the signs change is when there's a negative in the middle, because then what's a positive times a negative is a negative, and if you multiply 2 by a negative, it's still negative. So the only sign that will change will be this first addition will change to subtraction if our original quantity is x minus y, or 3x minus 5y, or anything like that. If there is a negative right there, the first operation is going to be negative. Subtraction. So using our rule, let's go ahead through these 4 examples, and quickly, because we have this now little rule that we can play with, let's find out what the squares of these examples are. So x minus 5 quantity squared will be the first term squared, x squared, the first term times the second term, which is negative 5x times 2, negative 10x. And lastly, the second term squared. So what's negative 5 times negative 5? Negative 25, or pardon me, positive 25. Let's try our second one. X plus 2 quantity squared. We square the first term, x squared. We multiply the first and second term together, so x times 2 is 2x, but we double it, so 2 times that is 4x, plus 4x. And 2 squared is 4. Next term, 2x squared. 2x squared is going to be 4x squared. We give the square to both the 2 and the x. Now we have 2x times negative 3. That's 6x, but now we have to double it. So negative 6x times 2 is negative 12x. And lastly, negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And our last example is going to be 5x minus 4 all quantity squared. So 5x squared, square the 5, which is 25, square the x, which is x squared. Now we have 5x times negative 4, which is negative 20x, but we double it. So it's negative 40x. And negative 4 times negative 4, positive 16. Because it doesn't matter if this middle number, doesn't matter what this middle sign is, because when we square that last term, a negative times a negative is a positive, as well as a positive times a positive is a positive. So the last term will always be positive. Another special type of product is when we have the addition multiplied by the subtraction. What I mean by that is a plus b, that quantity, times a minus b, this type. So it doesn't have to be just a and b. It could be 2x and a y, 5x and a 3y. It doesn't matter what it is, but if it's this type where it's an addition times a subtraction and both terms are exactly the same, then let's use our FOIL method to first solve and see if there's a pattern that's going to go on here. So our FOIL will be 2x times 2x, 2x times 3 plus 2x times 3, that will be our outer. Then we have negative 3 times 2x, and we have negative 3 times 3, which is going to be negative 3 times 3. 2x times 2x is going to be 4x squared. 2x times 3 is going to be 6x. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. The only last step to do is to combine like terms. So 4x squared, the positive 6x minus 6x is 0 x's. I'm left with negative 9. Let's try another example and see again if we can see that there's a pattern here. So again, using FOIL, x times x. Now it's going to be x times 5, this outer, positive 5, minus 5 times x, and negative 5 times positive 5. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. And lastly, negative 5 times 5, negative 25. Combine like terms. Again, I have now a positive 5x minus 5x. Those go away. And I'm left with x squared minus 25. Now the two previous examples, I had the subtraction in the front, but that doesn't matter. It's still going to be the same end up being the same type of problem. For example, if I have 3x plus 1 times the quantity 3x minus 1, I'm going to still use my FOIL method. 3x times 3x. Now it's going to be 3x times negative 1 plus 3x times negative 1. Positive 1 times 3x and positive 1 times 1. Go ahead and go through, run through and do the multiplication. So 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. 1 times 3x is positive 3x. And lastly, 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Combine like terms. 9x squared, the negative 3x plus 3x goes away, and I'm left with 9x squared minus 1. Well, if you notice, that middle term always disappears. And that's exactly the rule that we have. So when multiplying binomials that differ only with the sign that's in their terms, the product of the difference is the first term squared and the second term squared. So it's the difference, it's subtraction. So a minus b quantity times a plus b will always result into the first term being squared minus the second term being squared. Using our new rule, let's quickly run through 5 problems. And again, this will make our life a lot simpler. So using our rule, I'm going to notice that it's just the sign is the difference. So I have x plus 3 times x minus 3. So I can square the first term, I can square the last term, and there's a minus sign in between. Now that was really fast, so let's try another one. Again, using our sign, our rule, we're going to take the first term, square it, take the second term, square it, and put a minus sign in between. That's it. I mean, this is really quite quick. As soon as we know what the rule is, we can utilize the rule. So 9a plus 1 times 9a minus 1, square the first term. 9 times 9 is 81. A times a is a squared. 1 times 1 is 1. So my final solution is 81a squared minus 1. Again, using our rule, 2x minus 5y plus, or multiplied by 2x plus 5y. Square the first term, 4x squared minus 25y squared. And lastly, 3a minus 7b times 3a plus 7b. Square the first term, 9a squared minus, square the second term, 49b squared. Let's recap our rules really quickly. A plus b quantity squared is going to result in the first term squared plus the first term times the second term times 2, so 2ab, plus the second term squared. So a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. When we have a minus b quantity squared, the only difference is the sign on the second term is going to be subtraction, or negative. So a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. And then when the signs are different and everything else is the same, then a plus b quantity times a minus b will end up with a squared minus b squared. So if you know those 3 rules, multiplying polynomials will go much quicker. So that's it for this video. Until next time, be seeing you.